when Jim Bartlett made the AHL Hall of Fame in 2018, us in the media, it was well deserved, but almost what I call a delayed situation. We were wondering years ago how come he never got in. I think it just happens when you're not considered borderline. There's so many Providence Reds that deserve to be in the AHL. I'm glad he finally made it, because it would have been a disservice not to have him in there. Unfortunately, Mr. Bartlett passed away over the August 28th weekend. I guess he was put in palliative care and passed away peacefully. The family, we send our condolences, and part of our tribute to his life, his celebration of life, we're putting together this podcast today on our channel, and also in recognition of the great efforts he did with various AHL teams. And my dad said that it's probably the best player the Montreal Canadiens had 1950s they didn't keep. And that's saying a lot. Dad knew everybody on the Habs. Now, according to the AHL press release on his induction, he was never a flashy scorer or a high-profile superstar. He spent the majority of his 21-year pro career in the AHL as was one of the most consistent performers of his era. Now, Verdun makes the best hockey players. We all know that. Not the biggest drink of water. He said he was 5'9", 165. Dad saw him play. He said he was probably a little bit smaller than that. The idea with Bartlett, they call him Rocky for a reason, is because he was feisty. He wasn't dirty, but he loved that puck and he liked setting up his teammates. He debuted in the NHL with his hometown Montreal Canadiens in 1955. He made his first AHL appearance with Providence the following season. Now with the Reds, he racked up 28 goals and 110 penalty minutes in 50 games and helped the Reds to the 56 Calder Cup title. It would be the first of a dozen 20-goal seasons for Bartlett in the American League. Now, Bartlett would spend 5 up-and-down seasons with the AHL and New York Rangers, and on January 5th, 1958, he tied an AHL record when he scored 2 goals in a span of just 5 seconds against Rochester and Montreal Canadian alumni Jerry McNeil. The mark still stands 6 decades later. In 1960, he played most of the year in the NHL, but averaged a point per game for the Springfield Indians, a good team that year, in the postseason en route to another Calder Cup. So that's 2 big cups rings that going so far. Now he played the entire 61 campaign with the Bruins, his final taste of the NHL before spending most of the next 12 years exclusively in the AHL. Now the AHL at the time was one step away from the NHL, because with only 6 teams, you can imagine the talent they had. Now when he returned to Providence, he set career highs with 31 goals in 62 and 66 points in 63, famously playing on the B line with Stan Balyuk and Pierre Brillant. And although his career was nearly ended by an errant stick to the eye, he came back and led the Reds in scoring in 65. Now he joined the Baltimore Clippers in 1966 and became a member of the AHL's exclusive 300-goal club in 1970. Now he made one more trip to the Calder Cup Finals in 72 and retired in 73 from the pros, following a 24-goal season at the age of 40. Now he played nearly 1,000 games in the AHL, good for 10th on the All-League's all-time list. He ranks 9th with 360 goals and 21st with 742 points. Now breaking down the raw statistics of his career doesn't really tell the whole story, but we're going to try to put it in perspective here. When he came up, ladies and gentlemen, he had that the sniper skills that every Verdun player knows. His first season was in 1950 with the Verdun Junior Maple Leafs. Then he played in 51 with Verdun LaSalle, where he had 8 goals. Now he split time with the St. Jerome Eagles and the Boston Olympics in 1952. The Eagles were in the QPJHL. He had 25 goals in 44 games. With the Olympics, he had 8 points in 12 games. 53 with the Cincinnati Mohawks of the IHL. He had 62 points in 49 games. Then, this is near where I live in Northern New Brunswick. He played one of the better LSLHL squads of his era, the Matin Red Rockets, with 72 points in the regular season, 43 goals, and 25 points in the playoffs. 55 was an interesting campaign. Besides the 2 playoff games he played in and it add on to the regular season. He put up 28 goals for the Chicoutimi Saguenay in the QHL in 58 contests. So 55 again, two games in the regular season, 2 games in the playoffs. Now Montreal was stopped in their Cup quest. Could have easily had a ring. Now 56, he was in a Ranger system with 1 assist in 12 games. With Providence in that year, he had 28 goals. Then back-to-back seasons, 57-58 with 21 and 25 counters. 59, he had 11 goals in 70 games with the Rangers, full campaign. 60, he split time with the Rangers and the Indians, of course. Now, back in the NHL with the Boston Bruins in 61, technically his best NHL season, 15 goals and 24 points in 63 games. Next 5 seasons, big numbers with the Reds. 31, 28, 26, 22, and 19 goals. Move over to Clippers for several seasons. 30, 22, 25, 30, 14. Then he split time in 72 with the Columbus Seals and the Clippers, and then back with the Clippers to end his minor pro career with 24 goals in 72 games. Again, final AHL totals are very impressive. 350 goals, 742 points, 955 games, 38 points in 66 playoff games, 20 goals, and of course the 2 counters. Almost 200 games in the NHL, 34 goals, 23 assists for 57 points, and 2 games in the playoffs for that almost Stanley Cup winning Montreal Canadiens. Now, again, we talked about the fact he played mostly in the AHL, but that stick incident came very, very close to taking out his eye. I'm not exactly sure the particulars of it, but some people said the side of the sticks that wouldn't take his eye out hit him, because if it was anything else, it would have sent him blind in that eye. Now, close to the end of his pro hockey career, he kept his skills sharp by playing with National Brewers, which is a Baltimore area amateur team that was sponsored by the National Brewing Company and National Bohemian. He returned to the pro level to score, again, 8 goals, 11 games for the Clippers during the end of the 72 season, and then play with the Clippers again in 73. Now, 74, he entered his pro career, but had 4 more seasons of amateur hockey in the Baltimore-Washington area with the Brewers. During these 5 seasons that Bartlett played with the Brewers, he also worked as a driver for the National Brewing Company. Now, Bartlett moved to Tampa in 1987, making use of experience as a driver. According to published reports, he became a full-time assistant as an advisor and driver for George Steinbrenner, and of course the induction in 2018. So a man of many stories. I guess there was a game in Providence where he had a really successful game, and there was somebody in the crowd, one of my relatives actually, said, "How come you're not in the NHL?" And he basically told him, "You don't know, I've already been there." He said, "Are you happy?" He said, "Sure, I'm happy. Look what I'm playing with." So that sums up, from what I heard, his personality was ideal for hockey. He loved him in Providence, he loved him in Baltimore. See, the NHL back then was never looked down upon. You made the AHL, that's one step away from the NHL. And the NHL only had 120 spots. You could be 121 and play 15 seasons in the minors. And he did play in the NHL, but I always wonder if they would have kept him. Montreal would have kept him. But you know, Montreal was going through a lot of prospects in the mid-1950s. So he was 1 season away from 5 Stanley Cup rings, if he would have caught on with Montreal. But, you know, but Verdun, if you know Verdun, boys, oh boys, oh boys, you got some great athletes from there. And again, his passing has touched a lot of people. Our condolences from across New Brunswick and our followers in Canada, United States, and overseas. Mr. Bartlett, like I said, may you rest in peace. And up in heaven, I guess the ice is good, the ice is smooth. The pucks are not too hard because they're not completely frozen. And I just hope, I hope it's outdoor. Indoor rinks are kind of stale. I think any superstar, and he was a superstar, as like Bartlett, should have a nice outdoor rink to skate on. Say like Joni Mitchell. Anyway, thanks for listening. And again, if you have any requests, comments, If you'd like to give me a like or a subscribe, it's great. I really appreciate the Providence Reds or Rhode Island Reds alumni for their support of the history of minor hockey. I wish every AHL team would do that. We're limited in the Maritimes because the Express and the Moncton Hawks and everybody else are not as organized as the Rhode Island Red Society. And, they should be celebrated every day, because if they don't keep the history alive, who will? There's only organizations like this. Thanks for listening. Bye.